All right. So I want to provide you guys with an overview of the law school admissions essays that are just so critical to your application. Uh, they are just absolutely so essential in addition to the LSATs that you would be taking for law school. So I want to get into it. There's a ton I want to cover. I want to get through it fairly quickly so I don't take up too much of your time. So let's get into it. And then please, guys, ask any questions as we go through it. While I feel I'm qualified to provide you with this overview of the law school admissions essays is because I went to law school myself, was on the law review, and been doing this for about 18 years in a variety of different capacities, went to different schools where I've applied a lot of the learnings I've gained from Right Track to do what I do. I was a corporate lawyer. I did international development. Now I'm an entrepreneurship through really focused on ed tech, but also focused on legal AI and some other areas as well. All right, so let's get into it. A lot of the learnings that we're going to be covering today come from my time in applying to law school, the struggles I went through, and then how many different people I've worked with over the last, as I said, 18 years. And so I created this law school admissions mastery guide and these videos really to kind of help you through the process, even if you decide not to take on our services. So at least we can kind of pay it forward and democratize the process and allow you to kind of get yourself into this exceptional program. Obviously, a lot of things are changing with legal AI, relevance of law in different areas. But to me, still looking at this almost 20 years later, it's been the best degree I've ever done because it's given me such a practical perspective and provided me with a safety net, while I explore different entrepreneurial ventures. This really has been instrumental for me. So again, you can check this out, Law School Admissions Mastery Course. We provided you with a link so that that you can gain access to that. And really it covers everything from if you're the right candidate for law school, is the law school right for you, all the way through to different options, the different components of the application process, how to write your story, how to submit it, and how to really excel as a student. All right. So let's kind of get into it. When we're crafting a story, I kind of divide it up into 5 key components. Story creating, which is what you're doing well before you're applying to law school. And that's really kind of crafting, creating, seeking those life happenings that allow you to have the stories that you can then discuss in your essays. So we call that story creating. After you've kind of been creating all these incredible stories, we then go into what's known as storyboarding. Obviously, most people in the movie industry use this as a mechanism of designing stories that you see in the movies themselves. And so we take all the life happenings that you have and then map it out into a storyboard. So we start finding those common threads and really what kind of dictates and informs your desire to go to law school. Once we've kind of start piecing these themes together, we want to start testing these experiences and these themes to see if we're going in the right direction. So story testing is really just we're testing different things. We're testing the theme. We're testing the veracity of the story as it pertains to what the schools are asking for. We're really kind of checking to give a pulse check kind of halfway through the process to make sure that we're on the right path, right? Once we've checked and we feel that we're on the right path, we have an authenticity test, something called the Vega test, something I call the uniqueness test. And we feel like we're in the right path, we start to flesh out that theme into an actual story, putting meat on the bones, right? Really creating it to something absolutely beautiful. And then once we've created those stories, the tough part is the story structuring process. Then we get into the story success, which we just double check to do a kind of once over checklist of if we're in the right direction of everywhere we want to go with these exact stories. So that's the process. We're going to kind of just cover a bit about story because we're kind of far in the season. So we're not going to cover this. We're going to talk a little bit about storyboarding, jump into the story structuring, and then a little bit about story success. So these are the 3 that we're going to be covering on our talk today. All right. So into the storyboarding process, the best way I kind of like to do it is just say, hey, listen, think about the top 10 things that really make you stand out, make you really unique in the process of law school admissions, really allow you to be a unique candidate and kind of gives you that reason for law school. Just throw them down on paper. Let's think through them, right? And that really kind of falls into these kind of buckets. If you want to think about it as buckets, because you may be struggling, be like, I don't even know what 10 to think about. Here are some ways to think about it. Strengths, talents, skills, things that really allow you to kind of stand out, things that you've kind of groomed over time. Interests, hobbies, superpowers, right? Things that really allow you to kind of see the actualization of what we're talking about. Perspectives, diverse viewpoints that you may have, cultural exposure that you may have gained, personal experiences that you may have gone through. And I remember when I was doing it, in the end, I had two different themes I could have gone by. One that was very personal and one that was very applicable. But I was able to chase down the personal and make it applicable because I felt the one that was applicable, if I erased my name and added somebody else's name, it could still work for them, even though it was super applicable. And that's kind of how I was able to do it from this kind of storyboarding process. Put it all down on paper and then start finding the themes, kind of like what do they call it? Word clouds. Okay, this one's a bigger theme and this one's smaller and this is bigger, but this one connects to this and this one connects to this. And then you start seeing these patterns. And you've got several essays to discuss this in. A personal statement, why you want to go to law school, a diversity statement, which is now kind of changing more like I don't know if they want to call it an opportunity statement, which is about how you're going to add value to the class. You've got the optional statement, the addendum, to talk about any kind of gaps in your education, any other issues that kind of fall outside the scope of those two. You've got certain school-specific essays. Why our school? Tell us about a strength. Different things that the school may ask of you. So you can kind of start piecing it out. And then what kind of falls through the cracks that doesn't fit into any of those neatly, you kind of can also put those in the resume or hope that the recommender can actually surface those issues. All right. After storyboarding, we get into the story structuring, which is probably the most important aspect. So we've storyboarded, we've tested the theme, and now we're structuring the essay. And what you see here is not unique. It's a very kind of common used in the movie industry, which is why I put this over here. And this is essentially the classic story arc, right? Nothing crazy here. And I've put in the brackets where the movie industry actually uses it. But it turns out we can actually use this very beautifully for the admissions process itself, for writing your personal statement beautifully. I mean, I've been using this for years and it's just worked remarkably, remarkably well. So what do we got? You start off with an action. Exactly like I say, kind of like a movie. How does your movie start? Your story start, right? So let's think about what was like a movie I was watching recently. I think it was called, oh my God, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm completely forgetting what the story was called. One Battle After Another, I think, or something like that. And the idea, again, it starts off with them. I don't want to kind of be a spoiler alert, but it starts off with them planting all these bombs on the border or something like that, trying to help immigrants cross from Mexico just to kind of disrupt, whatever, government services. And so it starts off with an action sequence. And then you kind of see the main protagonist and you're like, who is this main protagonist? What's their story? Then we start going to their character development and we start learning more about them, the person that he loves someone, that he has a family and so forth. Then we get into the story after we learn more about the character and we start learning about the story development. Where's the story going and so forth. Then it reaches a crescendo. And in the movie, the crescendo is that they're caught by the police and then it's fast forward 15 years later and he has to make a decision. And the decision here is to continue doing what he's doing now with a child that's grown up, or does he just kind of give up and just kind of live away from being involved in anything that may be disrupting government in terms of immigration and so forth? And he chooses the latter. And that's kind of, in comes the guide. He regroups with his former people. They come together. They continue disrupting. They change the game. They find the corrupt police officer, and then you get the finale and the resolution, and everybody is happy. Literally, squarely. This is just the last movie I've seen in the movie theaters, so it fits perfectly. And there's no reason that this wouldn't work if it's making millions of dollars in the movie theaters. There's no reason it doesn't work for your personal statement. So you start off with an action sequence, a quote, a fact, a startling fact, a piece of dialogue. An action sequence, whatever it is, that grabs their attention and pulls them in. And then you kind of hint to them where you're going with this. Then you get into B, background. You start talking a little bit about yourself, your values, who you are, what you stand for. right? Knowing that you don't want to kind of over index here because you are going to talk about it in terms of your own the diversity statement. I'm going to keep using the word diversity because it's just easier because we've been using it for years. But again, let's call it the opportunity essay, or how you're going to add value to the school, which is where you really get much more granular about who you are in terms of your background. Here, you're going to talk a little bit more about the values and then the academics that you pursued and what you studied, and then what you did early on in your life in terms of living by those values. So we have B, background in terms of who you are. Then C, career, is really saying based on who you are, what have you done? And this is what getting much more granular into what you've studied, the kind of work that you have, if you have professional experiences or a volunteer experience or something that's relevant to your eventual life trajectory. So we talk about that, and you flex that here under C, career, right? Then you get into D, direction, and you say, listen, I've been doing, based on who I am and what I've done, I've been doing this for a while, but I've realized I can't get to where I want to go unless I make a seismic change in my life, right? And I really want to have a seismic change because where I really, really want to go is in this direction. Not stay in what I'm doing, but really go in this direction, right? And that's your inflection point, your climax, right? Where you made a decision. Because then you get into E, which is the educational program and institution, and saying, to get to where I want to go, based on who I am and what I've done, you're going to help me get there. And enter the guide, right? Enter the program, the institution. And that's why I have Yoda, because the other example of a movie that a lot of people know is Star Wars. Starts off, again, action sequence, Luke Skywalker, talk about his life. He has to make a decision, continue being a citizen or become a Jedi. The guide, in this case being Yoda, comes in, trains him how to become a Jedi, and then he defeats the evil empire. Same thing here. The school is going to come in like Yoda and help provide you with the legal knowledge, the legal training that you need to be able to succeed. And then finally, you get into F, finale, which is where you kind of bring closure to that whole circle, from the attention grabber, bringing it back to the finale, right? All the way circular, back to the beginning. And you can see there's a line of tension and a temporal chronology as it goes across in terms of time sequence. And it brings that back because people love, human brain loves to see closure to the story that they started off with. So in this case, when you're doing E, I do also want you to think about CLAP, which is community, location, academics, personal. Written really as academics, community, location, personal. Just kind of flip the letters around. So academics is going to be, I don't know if I have this in here. I think I do. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about this. Actually, I'll break it down. But this kind of takes this, and I've already kind of done the work for you, broken it down for you, right? Which is action, contextualization, roadmap, right? Action, contextualization, like why are we even talking about the action, and then the roadmap of where you're going with it. And here's our target word numbers. Background, cover the foundation of who you are through the upbringing and studies, true authenticity, right? Based on who you are, what you've done. And that should be about 125 to 175 words. Academic and professional background. This is where you link the section back to even the action sequence. Sometimes you could do it that way, or you can just kind of leave it as a standalone. But the best way would be to go back, kind of like, again, in a movie, action sequence, fade to black, show the character, start developing the story, right? And then it goes back to the action sequence to even provide it with further context. And this is kind of where it kind of goes in there, saying based on who you are, how you're living by who you are. Again, another concept of true authenticity. And that's about 125 to 75 words. Then you've got D, direction, about 100 words, is saying, given what I've done, here's where I want to go, right? What are my goals in the future? And then kind of concluding that and saying, but I can't do that without law school. In comes the law school. Here's why I want to go to law school. Break it down by CLAP, right? Community, location, academics, personal, written as ACLP, academics, because that's the most important. Then community, the second most important. Then the location where you are, third most important. And then P, personal, is kind of like that je ne sais quoi, the X factor, the fact that your parents maybe went to that school, the fact that maybe you went there as an undergrad, maybe that you took a course there, that you visited there, that you know alumni there, right? Maybe that you've done some research with one of the professors there. And so here's basically what you're saying is, given my future goals, you guys are going to help me get there, and here is how, right? And that's the specificity of why our school, right? Know that if a law school asks you why our school in a separate essay, then you would skip over E and then just go straight to F in the personal statement. If it doesn't ask you that, then you include that paragraph in there. And then finally, F for finale, which again is bringing the whole, the story back full circle. All right. Now, That's the personal statement. Let's jump into the diversity statement, right? Under the diversity statement or opportunity statement or whatever they call it now, this is kind of like the question. How are you going to add value to the class community? Super important. There's no reason that they should get rid of that essay. What is diversity? Diversity is not just your race, or as politics wants us to believe. It's about sexual orientation. It's even about political beliefs. I think I put it down there somewhere, or maybe I didn't. Activism, right? Advocacy and activism. It comes down to your political beliefs sometimes, that you have something that's very kind of off the rails that you really believe in and that really kind of defines you. Socioeconomic hardship, volunteer experiences, medical tribulations, caring for others who have their own medical tribulations, unique skills and hobbies that really make you stand out. Advocacy, activism, professional, endeavors that you've done outside the scope of what you've already included in the personal statement. Neurodiversity, right? ADHD or other things that you may have gone through over the course of your life. One of the things I really like to use is volunteer experiences where you can talk about caring for others and a socioeconomic hardship and so forth with a volunteer experience that you have to really bring the story to life. And I like to usually feature the volunteer experience in the diversity essay. And the way that I would structure this, somewhat tweaked from our A, B, C, D, E, F previously, is using some of the same things but tweaked. So we've got attention grabber, nothing different there. Background, your background, why you're diverse, why you're important in terms of importance, in terms of diversity. But don't stop there. Then we go into the circumstance of the actual experience that really helps you stand out. Debrief about that experience, kind of like what you've learned, how you're going to engage your desire to give opportunities to others, diversity, DOI, I think they're calling it now, diversity, opportunity, and inclusivity, right? So how are you going to continue doing that? It's at the law school. And then finally, future, what you plan to do and how you plan to carry that into the future after you graduate. Okay. We got a question from Anna that says, what role does the why school essay play in the overall application review? Super important, because selfishly, the school wants to know why our school versus the 100 other plus, or I think, what is it, almost 200 plus other schools out there, law schools. So I think that's why it's important that that one really is honed in. But the reality is also it's dry. I mean, there's not, unless you really got a damn good reason why that school, it's going to be tough to kind of distinguish it other than the main things, which again, like we talked about, if it's academics, it's going to be things like clinics, classes, professors, research opportunities, centers of learning within the school, right? If it's community, it's going to be maybe like journals, student organizations, the diversity and the makeup of the student body, anything really that stands out, which you can grab that information from places like social media, from conversations with current students or alum that kind of add to it, because you don't want to just download everything from the internet, especially not from AI, because AI is just not going to help you here, because it's going to provide you with hallucinations and all that kind of random crap that probably is not necessarily true, and other people are probably providing the same information there. So you want to do your own diligence. Location, again, I went to Berkeley. So for me, being in Berkeley allowed me access to doing community service within the Berkeley community, immigration services within the Berkeley community and the San Francisco community, opportunities in tech and law that I didn't really avail myself for 200 years ago when I went to law school, but now it could be definitely something important why people would want to be in the Bay Area because of that, that crazy movement of AI and what it's doing to different fields, including legal AI. And then finally, personal. For me, I actually knew some people there, so I kind of quoted that. I spoke with the dean of admissions at one of the school fairs. I visited the campus, so I kind of included all of that in there. All right. So that is kind of why that school essay is so important for you to kind of stand out and or include it in that penultimate paragraph. But definitely you want to take that as seriously as possible. The addendum is an opportunity, and I apologize for using ICE as a acronym here. This predates what's been going on, but I'll use it there because it hopefully jogs your memory, hopefully not in a negative way for some people. But let's think about it. When do you need an addendum? If you have a low LSAT or GRE score, poor GPA, a gap in your education, a medical condition that related and impacted your studies that you didn't talk about in the other essays, personal issue, maybe a legal issue that came up and so forth that you just want to kind of put in there. An example of how to kind of tackle the low LSAT GRE is maybe like for me, I studied in a international school. Internationally, I sucked at the SATs, but I did really, really well in college. And therefore I really did suck at the LSATs, but I anticipated that given my performance in undergrad, I would be able to do well in the law school environment. So that was what I talked about. Other ways, things that you can talk about is you can say possessed, diagnose a learning disability, and maybe have some information in there that's corroborated by a doctor. A poor GPA can say I took on too many activities, I had poor management skills, but I improved. They always want to see that you've improved over time. If you did worse, you really should have a damn good excuse as to why you did worse later on, and that should come in from some like extraneous intervening incident that may have really impacted you. Maybe you were doing well, and then suddenly something really terrible happened that brought your GPA down. And you want to explain that. The way that I would write it is introduction, kind of what you're going to be talking about in your addendum. I am writing this addendum to discuss my academic score, which I did not believe accurately reflects my aptitude. Context, this is what happened. You're explaining, not providing excuses. And then finally, educational learning lesson. Here's what I learned from it. Here's how I grew from it. And here is how I'm going to be stronger for it, all the better for it when I'm at your school. Okay. For me, this was mission critical because, again, I had a really poor LSAT score. So I really had to nail the addendum. And I think it really helped me get into Berkeley. Here are some don'ts for your essays. I'm going to quickly go through this. Don't use cliche topics. Gandhi said, Martin Luther King said, things like that. Ways of starting your essay or going with the basic stuff that doesn't relate to you. I want to help underserved communities, and all you've been doing is working at Goldman Sachs. It's just not going to fly. It's inauthentic. Like, own up to what you're doing to figure it out. And that's why I talk about that uniqueness test as well. Because if it's a cliche topic and it doesn't make you feel unique, it doesn't stand out, then it's not going to be the right essay for you. And uniqueness test is if I deleted my name and put someone else's name, does it work? Yes, then it's not unique enough. It's not strong enough. It may be because it's cliche. Duplicating materials, same personal statement, very similar diversity statement, not good, right? Totality test. Does it cover each aspect of you when you put them all together, or is there too much overlap? Irrelevant. Which goes into the Vega test, which again you can find in the guidebook there as well. In terms of how does it work? In terms of is there relevance to what you're trying to talk about in there, or is it a random red herring that just doesn't stand out on its own? It's not applicable. Impersonal approach, authenticity test. And basically kind of not talking about something specific enough to you so it doesn't move you. That's inauthentic. If it doesn't move you, it's not going to move the admissions committee. If it lacks an outline, there's ideas jumbled all around and shows that you lacked an outline, that's also going to impact you. If you're just listing and firing off random accomplishments as if you took your resume and just made it into an essay, that's also going to hurt you. Wasting words, kind of going way over the word count and just writing random words and then trying to summarize everything at the end in one sentence, that's not going to help you either. Experience overload, you're just kind of throwing too many experiences without providing a framework of why you're putting those experiences and it fitting into the overall theme. Problem. Talking about a divisive topic, that's really kind of subjective, but what is a divisive topic if you're couching it and saying us versus them and showing that you're taking a hard stance that shows intolerance to other people's ideas. That's not going to help you. And then cheap laughs, trying to make something funny when it shouldn't be funny, or it's just not funny, and you're trying too hard and it's going to blow back in your face. So things that you really want to kind of watch out for there. This is kind of the result. I worked with this client, phenomenal individual, really stood out. And I really want to kind of highlight the second part of the essay, of his testimonial to me. The crazy part about that is I ended up doing disability law and would be consulting on a national disability project. The statement became my narrative. Grateful to you for helping me tell it right. In fact, so what I'm saying is he used the statement as a roadmap for what he wanted to do. It was very cathartic. And oddly enough, it's exactly what happened to me. I knew my personal statement was phenomenal when I wrote it because I had such a poor LSAT and I knew I didn't stand a chance. So I put in like 4 or 5 months into my personal statement. And oddly enough, I know it was the right personal statement because 9 years later, I ended up doing exactly what I wanted to do that I discussed in my personal statement. So we knew that it was truly authentic. Obviously, you don't know that at the time, but if it's written right, you have that gut feeling that this is a roadmap for my life. It's so important to me. And if the law school doesn't see it, then I don't want to go to that law school. All right. How do you get started? Ideating. So start off with kind of, brainstorming, throwing ideas down on paper. We talked about that in terms of the brain dump. Then, and if there's an easier way for you, you're going to be like, come on, I still don't know how to kind of sort through everything. Just nail that theme. Once you've got that theme down, this is what we help you with as admissions experts. Once you get that theme, start even just using the the A, B, C, D, E, F to kind of help you with outlining. So put A, attention grabber, and then put that information there in bullet points, right? Using that kind of thing I just showed you guys right now with the A, B, C, D fleshed out. Then put B, background, talk about your background, and C, right? And put bullet points of each one of those. Use the bullet points into sentences, make them into proper sentences, delete the bullets, make the sentences into a paragraph under each section, delete the topic headers. Now you've got the specific paragraphs in each part, each section, and then flesh out into a beautiful essay. And now, double check it for flow, syntax, responsiveness, uniqueness, all that good stuff, okay? And if you need, if you're not going to be working with us as admissions experts or another admissions expert company, find a mentor. Find someone who knows the admissions process in terms of went to law school and knows it well, and find somebody who's a damn good writer. Those are the three opinions that you really need. A mentor because they know you well, so they know how authentic your essay is. An admissions specialist to kind of say, yes, you're on the right track in terms of what law schools are looking for. And a good writer that helps you really make sure that your essays and what you're saying really is coming down beautifully in terms of what you're going to be submitting. Again, all of these three things are embodied into who we are as admissions specialists, because this is exactly what we do. All right. Something I want you to know, working with AI, here's what Northwestern law says. If it is discovered that an applicant used generative AI in the preparation of their application, that can result in a character and fitness issue for the state bar admissions purposes for the applicant. Beautifully said, because that's exactly what's probably going to happen. If you use AI in your essays, it's inauthentic. In fact, I just recently spoke to someone in the admissions who said the problem also is that using AI will likely regenerate an essay from that's already been produced that now starts to border plagiarism, because the AI is just taking different things and then piecing it together with someone that has a similar storyline as you. And if they see that, they can check for it and they can get you on plagiarism, not only just using AI. So it really is bad. And if that's the case, and they could report it to the state bar, and now you're screwed because you can't even get a bar from that state, which is literally why you're going to law school, so that you can practice. I mean, for most people. So use AI for brainstorming, researching, outlining, and even researching. I say it very, I say with quotations, because you don't want it to hallucinate and just copy and paste from a researching perspective what it tells you. But brainstorming, ideating, going back and forth. Is this a good idea? I had these three ideas. How would this fit into this? Thinking through it, kind of like as a personal coach, and outlining it. But when you write it and you craft it, you really want to make sure that that is all written by you, that you're using your own words, your own thoughts, piecing it together. And they will use programs like GPT-0 and others to find out this is more likely than not written by AI. Okay, and then ding you for it. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. The main topics, the main things I want to cover on today's conversation. Let me tell you quickly about who we are. We've been crushing it in the law school space for a long time. I'm really, really proud of the results we have in law school. And that's honestly because of my own story and what I went through, the struggles. I had a great GPA from UCLA, I think a 3.9 something, 3.94. I think was it, yeah, 3.94 from UCLA. But my LSAT was like a 155 average after taking it 3 times. So I sucked at it. And I really needed to stand out. And the application process was not only cathartic for showing me why I wanted to go to law school, but it also allowed me to put everything and pour myself onto my documents, and schools like Berkeley to accept me. So really it was personal to me, which is why I've really focused on law school admissions as part of Right Track Admissions portfolio of programs that we work on. So you can see our success there. I like to kind of highlight these two right here. That by having a really good application, it increases your chance of getting financial aid, which is critical. And we've helped a lot of people get that because their applications were stellar, as well as obviously their GPA and LSAT score for some clients. And also that I can't guarantee this, but we are very confident we can increase the time of how fast we can get your applications done. I think the way I say it usually is something like, we increase your creativity, we decrease your stress, and we increase your admission success, something like that. I have that little thing there, but that's the point. Is we increase your creativity. We help you really think about the best story for you. We decrease your stress because you're not going to be spinning your wheels trying to find the right topic, and we increase your admission success and fast track that timeline for you. All right. My team, amazing, amazing individuals, gone to some incredible schools, Harvard, NYU, Stanford, really incredible individuals that we've worked with over the years, and they have experience, so they can kind of align with what you want to do in the future. So somebody who is maybe in entrepreneurship, someone who's international development, someone who is pursuing a career in corporate law. So we have people that also have different perspectives and different life paths that may align with what you want to do. All right. Look at the different law schools we've gotten people into. Really some outstanding law schools in America, the top 14, and obviously all the way down to the top 50 and so forth. And again, just want to kind of leave you with this offer before I get to Anna's question, which is if you email us first today, we will give you the Law School Admissions Mastery Guide. It's 180 pages. It is everything. I've poured my heart into that book. I love it. It's everything that I've believed in, that I live by. And so we will provide that to you for free, and a free consultation with Right Track Admissions to kind of go through your profile and figure out how we can best support you. And our next webinar is going to be the Art of Applying, where we're going to go through a lot of the other stuff, like different law schools, how to find the right law school, how to find the right letter of recommendation, talking about the resume, talking about submissions process, talking about financial aid negotiations, and really everything in between. So I really hope you can join us on October 30th for that. You can also look us up on our different handles, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn, so that you can find more information about us there. And let me quickly answer Anna's question. When approaching a personal statement, how important is it to establish a consistent overarching theme or a narrative across application components, essay, resume, LORs? So when approaching the personal statement, how important is it to establish a consistent overarching theme? Super important. That's what I was saying. That totality test means that you're not duplicating materials across the board, but that you have things there in different components. So your personal statement talks about something a little bit different from your diversity statement, that talks about something different than your addendum. And then you've got your catch-all in your resume. The school-specific essay kind of captures different things. There will be a common theme, but hopefully each one, when put together in terms of a totality, provides an incredible picture of you without redundancy. So super, super important that you do that. And that's the magic of the strategy of the application process, which is why we're still in business. Because a lot of people will use the personal statement and then copy parts of it and reduplicate in the diversity statement, and they would not even notice that they've done that. And that's really where we are able to stand out and provide you guys with that little bit of an edge to allow you to have the best application that you can pace and put your best foot forward. Okay, if there's no other questions, we're going to end a little bit before a lot of time, but at least we've covered a lot of the very, very important stuff. Make sure to join us next week on October 30th, The Art of Applying. Really want to help you out with there. Make sure to email us so we can give you this guidebook for free. And let us know if you have any questions. Obviously, have all our information there. Love to be able to support you with this. I love working with law school students because, again, my own experience, I feel like I love paying it forward in this space, especially for law students. So please make sure to reach out to us. We look forward to getting you on the right track and getting into your dream law school.